Record.
Yay.
Hello, hello, everybody.
Hello.
How is it going? Welcome, welcome. Caleb, Sam, Aaron, Katja, Cambry, what's up? Welcome, welcome, everyone. All right, did I push record? Yes, it is recording. Yes. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited about today, guys, because literally, I don't know if you guys have noticed, we have a special guest on this call, Brandon T. Adams. Brandon, I don't even know how we met. Like, we were just literally talking about how it was 7 years ago, right? But how, I was trying to think of that yesterday. Like, how did we meet?
I think you reached out to me and you asked to interview me for something. And this was like, 6 years ago. And then we did a call and it was a conversation and it kind of went from there.
It just kind of like went from there. Yeah. My God. This was at the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey. I would have been really, really fresh on the scene 6-7 years ago. And I think you were way more established than me at that stage, but still we were kind of like,
I wasn't even in the TV world
yet,
just so you
we
know.
were both kind of freshies a little bit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for coming on and for sharing your mind, your magnetic energy and your story with us. So what I'd love to do is I'll just introduce Brandon a bit, but then I'd love to hand it over to you and just let yourself introduce yourself and what you're up to. And then I'd love to just start digging into your story and just sharing what wisdom you have to impart on us and what projects you're working on as well right now. So welcome to everybody just joining us. So as I just mentioned, I met Brendan 7 years ago, and honestly, his energy was the thing that really drew me to him. He, like, you can just tell listening to him talking. You were just saying you were on 10 calls. Is that today?
10 calls, a webinar, and a live morning show.
And you still have this energy. So yeah, you're just like very high vibe individual. You're the founder of Rise and Record. You've done so many productions. You were in Think and Grow Rich. You're just a go-getter. You're somebody that just goes out there. But I'd love for you to introduce yourself and what it is that you do to this group of entrepreneurs, and take it away.
So I'll tell you this, go back in time. I grew up in Iowa. First off, who here heard of Iowa?
Yeah, not been.
It's in the United States. I grew up in a small fucking town nobody's heard of, Garnavillo, 700 people, and I was surrounded by cornfields and hog barns, no joke. And so I grew up in a small town. My mind wasn't like thinking big, how you can make millions of dollars. It was, I mean, where I grew up, if you made $30,000 a year, $40,000, it was actually considered like you could have a good living. And so it was a different mindset. But I grew up as an entrepreneur, and my dad was in the ice business. And so we sold packaged ice for a living, bagged ice to convenience stores, bars, ever since I was a kid. I mean, I was born in 89. I say my dad started the business at age 6. As soon as I came out of the womb, I was selling ice. I was literally working as an entrepreneur. And so fast forward, as a kid, I was always liking sales and selling things. But the obstacle I had as a kid is I had a speech impediment. So I actually grew up with a lisp. Now I talk all the time for a living. And so that was the obstacle I had. And I share that story because it was actually through that obstacle became my opportunity. I was practicing in front of the mirror how to communicate. And when people would come up to me and say, oh, you make fun of me, kids do, and I'm 10 years old, 11, they would say things and mock me. And they would say, you have a lisp. I said, no, what are you talking about? And so from my own standpoint, like I was telling them I don't, to really believe in my own mind that I did, and eventually overcame that speech impediment and started putting myself out of my comfort zone to speak in front of groups from hundreds to thousands of people, just because I knew if I wanted to be great at sales, I needed to master my communication process. And so that growing up, going in that transition, I learned how to sell. I learned how to communicate. Fast forward to college, I got a 1.68 GPA my freshman year. So I literally like about dropped out. I got kicked out of the dorms. I don't know how open this group is, but I'm just telling it straight out as it
Very
is.
open.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was in one of your groups and I saw you cussing away like a sailor.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just gonna tell it how it is in this fucking group.
Yes.
I
Love it.
was selling moonshine. If you don't know what that is, I made Everclear and apple pie and sold alcohol illegally in the dorm rooms. And I was basically making my money that way in college. And so doing that, and then like I never went to class, and they kicked me out of the dorms because I was fighting. And so I got kicked out of the dorms. I almost completely got out of college, which college, honestly, I didn't need it. It was just, I went through the journey there, got my act around, but I share that because I went to a class presentation. Funny enough, I was failing speech comp class. And to get extra credit, you had to attend guest speaker events. I attended an event by a guy named Cactus Jack Behringer, who was a famous inventor. And he talked about how he made a deal in Shark Tank with this guy named Kevin Harrington, original shark on Shark Tank, which showed the footage. He also led me to the book Think and Go Rich. And so that guy, he became one of my mentors. I was like, wow, what is this? And I read the book Think and Go Rich. I'm curious, raise the hands, who has actually read the book in here? Yeah, so the book is here's what I took away. Everyone's like, what's the secret to the book? Well, for one, the secret is do shit. You got to take action. But two, when you learn to use your mind, and if you can take your mind to create ideas and actually put a plan in place, and then the most important part, which I took away, was surround yourself with the right people like we're doing here, the mastermind group, your executives, your consultants, your advisors, and you worked as a team towards perfect harmony towards a goal, you would achieve it. And then the one other thing I knew is persistence. I knew if I always went towards something and didn't stop, eventually I would win. And so that, to sum up the entire book, that is what I took away from it. And I realized, dude, I can get out of this town of 700 people. I can make way more than 30,000 a day. Heck, I can make $1 million in a day if I want. And I can expand my mind to be anywhere I want in the world. And so that was a big change for me, which led me out of the ice business and led me to get into, I invented this product called Arctic Stick. It cool and flavored drinks, got a patent, trademarks. But what I did is I went to crowdfunding and raised money from the public for the endeavor. The invention flopped. It never really made me money, but it got me into crowdfunding. And keep in mind, this is back in 2013, 14. This is before crowdfunding. I don't know if you guys put in the chat here, who's heard of crowdfunding? Yes, if you've heard of crowdfunding. Yeah, it back then it was new. And so I saw where the trend was going. I said, I'm going to fucking seize this opportunity and be in front of that trend and be able to be that expert. So started going on podcast shows, get my name out there. I was building brand before I even know what a brand building was. It's just me marketing myself. I was going on morning shows. I was working with clients. And so I got my name out there. But the smart thing I did, and I'll wrap it up here in like 4 minutes because I love to answer all your questions, is I understood if I wanted to get to the front of the line quick, I just need to pick 5 or 10 people that have powerful people, influential people, make them a lot of fucking money and get their attention. So not only will they help me, but I'll get into business for them. So the first person I helped was John Lee Dumas of Entrepreneurs on Fire. He came on my podcast show. At the end of the show, I always said, how can I help you? He said, I'm doing a crowdfunding campaign. And I said, hey, I'm a crowdfunding expert. We worked together. Within 6 months, we launched a campaign. We did $500,000 in a month for the Freedom Journal, made the 5th largest book campaign in history for crowdfunding. And so that was my big kind of lucky opportunity I got. And then that led me to working with Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, who I saw on that screen back in class, helped him do a campaign that ended up leading to a $100 million deal. And then from there, I worked with the Think and Grow Rich movie. So if you ever seen the movie Think and Grow Rich Legacy, it's based on the book I was talking about. I was one of the producers in that film. I'm featured in the film. I used crowdfunding to fund my endeavors. And then I started getting smart and said, I'm making all these people money. Now I have a powerful group of people. I'm going to basically raise money for my own companies internally. And so I started creating my own companies and doing my own TV shows. So I've done 4 TV shows today, 1 movie, docuseries. spent over $1 million of my own money on video marketing and film, and created those shows in a way to grow a brand, but also to grow companies. And so what I do today is I manage a portfolio with Kevin Harrington, myself, and his son that's approaching $1 billion in terms of the management overall. Our equity is substantial. And so what we do is we advise and consult companies and we help them grow. And I take my communication skills, sales skills, and my ability to use video to grow companies to the company. And basically we get paid equity and we get paid retainers for, we don't have to invest our own money. We do on some, but that's what I do for a living and how I've built my wealth. And so I do events and speaking too, but it all started me selling some fucking ice to convenience stores, to selling moonshine in dorm rooms, to going on and now working with companies, investing and advising companies. That sum up good enough in 9 minutes?
That's amazing. Congratulations, by the way. That is
Thank you.
Phenomenal portfolio or CV or whatever you want to call it. I'm so curious about, going right back to when you had a stutter and you were a child and people were teasing you about it and you were saying, what stutter? Basically, that's like a high method of invocation. Like, where did you pick that up? That kind of mindset?
It's crazy because I was applying the principles of Think and Grow Rich before I even read the book. It was, I think what it was is when you hit I remember going home and crying to my parents. For one, I hated going to speech class because I was made fun of. You got to leave the class and you got to go to this thing. But also it's not fun when you're around a group of kids, especially as you get older, and they tell you what's wrong? You can't speak right. Who the fuck are you? Call me an idiot or call me disabled in some way. Mm-hmm. And so that frustration, anger, and hate made me internally realize I need to figure this out because I don't want this to be the reason why I can't be successful. And I didn't think I was going to do TV shows or that. It was, for me at that time, is I wanted to be the best ice salesman in the world. And so what I did is I would practice in front of the mirror and I would do S's. I go, success. I would say these different words and do it in front of the mirror every night. But then again, it was believing that I didn't actually have it. So it was weird at first because I obviously internally I have a list, but I didn't, people would say that. I say, I don't know what you're talking about because I had to completely eliminate it from my mind. And then as I put myself in different situations that made me practice, I eventually had no list. And so, but that I share that story because that's what made me a great storyteller and speaker. I get paid now. It's 5 figures to give a 60-minute keynote. I've done over 100 grand on stages because I fucking speak for a living. And it's I know I didn't have that back then. So it's powerful what you can do with your mind with just the exercise of it, but also persistence and doing different things consistently.
Yeah. And so you were, as you said, you were doing these principles before you even encountered Think and Grow Rich. And now that you're in the world and you've been producing it and featured in it, and you're super immersed in high-level entrepreneurs and you are one yourself, what is the sort of practice that you have around mindset now? And how do you approach those fears and those, transmutations of limitations that you might perceive?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I love the transmutation because one thing people always ask in the book is sex transmutation, which is the most difficult thing to master because in my early 20s, all I wanted to do is have sex.
For a guy, I think it's really easy for a girl.
Yeah, it's how could I master that? But there is a power in it. And there's a power of love. I actually talked about the power of love in the movie I'm in for Think and Grow Rich. And when you can channel that energy towards something else, it can be so powerful for you. But I look at it this, I am very, very careful in who I surround myself with. The reason why I'm on this is because Kat and I have known each other for a while and seen each other on social media and growth. I trust she's going to bring me in a good environment and not a shitty situation. I have people that I trust that I'm going to spend my time with. But once you become, let's say, so-called successful and high demand, everybody wants your time. Even if they want 5 minutes, it's never 5 minutes. They want you to do this, want you to do that. You become more limited in who you spend your time with and what you spend your time on. So there's certain people in my journey I no longer have conversations with. There's nothing wrong with them. They don't longer add value to my life. I know that may sound very brutal, but that's one side of it. And then also the biggest talk sometimes people do that affects them is self-talk, negative talk. And so I do mantras in the morning, and I'm not trying to get all woo-woo because this stuff is actually, it does work.
We are
What you
very
say to
woo-woo.
yourself, what you say to yourself and what you say around other people matters, and it determines what, think of, we're a computer. So whatever you say and you hear, it comes in input. And so make sure you're saying the right things. Like, I'm a multimillionaire, or I'm a billionaire, or I am already achieving this before you even achieved it. But also, I will do this. I am gonna do this. And I had somebody tell me the other day, I have an event coming up, and they said, I hope I can make it. I said, don't hope. Hope is a dream. Do. And hope, like, for me, it's you do it or you don't do it. And so that's my kind of like philosophy in life. And then also, energy. You said create energy. Well, for me, I woke up at 4:30 a.m. this morning. I read, I pray, and then I did work, and then I hit the gym. Usually I'll gym and then run 3 miles. That's my primer for the day. And then I go right to it for my other stuff. That's something that makes me feel like I've achieved more than everybody else. It started the day before they even woke up, but also it gets my blood flowing, and it puts me in this mindset of like, I'm a conqueror going to war. And then I'm very scheduled on my shit. Like, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's my calls. Here's my agenda. And I just do it. And so that's really, to sum it up, it's make sure you get the right people in your life and get rid of the wrong people. Be careful what you say to yourself. And then what things do you do? My drug is exercise. What is your drug that you have? Not like taking drugs, but like, what is the thing that you do that puts me in a mindset and positivity that allows you to be more successful in what you do?
Yeah, exercise for raising the vibration of the body is super, super powerful. And so the
Yes.
technique of again, this is a form of invocation, right? Where we're talking about, or enchantment, where we're talking about ourselves in the present as if it was, to pull ourselves into that version of reality, to align ourselves with that version of reality. I had an interesting question around this last week, which I'd love to pose to you, around what is the boundary, or what are the semantics around, let's say you're saying like, I make $1 million, but it's not true yet. And, what is the boundary or the line or the fine line where you're claiming something and being ethical or not ethical? And how do you sort of navigate that?
So this is a great question, and not everybody will agree with me. And I've actually, I've contemplated how I use this, because I've built wealth. I've built a multi-million-dollar portfolio, and but I don't publicly like, hey, I'm gonna show you how to make $1 million a day. I don't do that. And I also know there's a lot of people out there that say, let's say they're millionaires, or they say that they're making this much a month. Here's what I want to know. How much did you take home? What is your net? What did you get after taxes? And what are you doing with that? Because there's people I know that run multi-million-dollar companies, and they're making less than 6 figures a year. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I always like to point that out, because I cannot stand when people put a facade online or bullshit when they're not actually where they are. But on the flip side of that is, if there's a way you word something, if you are achieving a certain success, how can you communicate it in the right way that's integrity, but also allows you, because people are going to track you, and they want to, if you really have a gift to give, you want to make sure you're able to give them that gift. So it is a fine line. I struggle with it, Kat. I really do, because I don't like publicly saying, hey, I'm a millionaire. I don't like doing those kind of things, because where I grew up and in my background, you just don't just go do that. But I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah. I'd love to actually hear more about your relationship with money, because obviously you have a great relationship with money. You've achieved amazing things in your life. How do you perceive money? How do you flow it in and out? What is your kind of mantra around cash?
My thing around money is powerful. Money is a tool. Money is growth. Money can help more people. If there's old saying like, money can't make you happy. Well, being broke can't do shit for you, because I've been fucking broke. I've been negative $500,000 in the bank. But literally, like, they took my land, they took my car, they repoed the things. I didn't have enough money to eat. My now wife was going through depression because we had no fucking money, and my parents stopped talking to me. So like, that isn't happiness. I can tell you that. So I know what it's like to be broke, and I don't ever want to go there again. And so when you have that perspective, you look at money differently. So I am not a person, I wear, just so you know, I'm simple. I wear a black t-shirt, black jeans or shorts. I wear the same thing every day. You look at my closet, I have 20 pairs of express black t-shirts, 20 pairs of jeans, black, and 3 pairs of the same black shoes. I wear it every day because I don't want to think about what I need to wear, and I don't need cool watches or anything. That's just my mentality. I don't need fancy cars. For me, I invest a lot of money in my events. I invest in companies. I invest in growth and real wealth, and experiences too. And so that's how I look at things in money. And I think it's good. Like, I'll give you an example. There's a charity, World Youth Horizons, I'm on the board of, and we've actually created homes in 4 third world countries where they have dirt floors, no running water, where we put money towards that. We've had masterminds before where we'd send 5,000-10,000 a month where we'd go towards that, and it would help those kids. And so I share that story because if you're broke, you can't do that. And so I believe in the power of money. I think it's all our duty in life to become powerful and wealthy in our own way, because you can do good with that. You don't need to go spend a bunch of money on other bullshit things. Yeah, treat yourself, but I do believe it's necessary. I'm not quite the Grant Cardone. His whole thing is money, 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 which is good and all, but I also look at it as like, I want a great relationship with my wife. I want to be married for the rest of my life. So I don't want it to control me so much that consumes my personal relationships.
Yeah, Grant has some interesting philosophies, but one of the things that he said once really struck me, which was when you're saving money or holding on to money, it kind of stunts your creativity, and it's good to let it flow out and kind of take your, Jesse Elder does this too. He takes himself to zero every month by just investing and putting money back out, because it forces him. Is this kind of your, because you're saying you invest heavily in projects?
Well, for one, I got very wealthy friends. I don't keep any fucking money in the bank.
Interesting, right?
What's it going to do in the bank? It's going to do nothing for you.
Yeah, with inflation, how can that money, right? Nothing.
Yeah, how can that money work for you? How can you? So I look at money in different ways. So like, you can invest in companies and people are working and growing. We have a lot of public companies, so our stock one day goes up or down. But that's one side. The other side is I invest in relationships. I invested 50 grand for an hour of somebody's time recently. And so like, things like that, just to be able to get connected to the right person. And so I invest in relationships. I invest in my brand. I invest in projects that are, yes, building my brand, but also something I'm passionate about, because I know the long-term value of one deal could pay all that back. One deal could do this, because we live in a world of, you got to look at your investments. Maybe you have real estate, you have stock, you have whatever it is, but then you have your digital footprint. And I think that's one of the most valuable assets you can have in this day and age that most people underestimate, which is building a personal brand and authoritative status online. Because the more people that know who you are, the more people that search you, the more people that see you as a good representation of whatever it is you do, no matter what you do in your journey. I've been a crowdfunding expert to an investor to a TV producer. Whatever you do, if enough people like and trust you, they will work with you in whatever endeavor you do. Maybe not right away, but eventually in their life, they'll need you. So I believe investing in your digital footprint, in your brand, so you have a longevity of that financial commitment.
Yeah, you're so well connected. Like, that's definitely one of your superpowers now. Yeah. How did you get in touch with Kevin and John Lee Dumas? And like, how was it just kind of the giving, you said you were just giving them things, like you just became a follower, or you invested in their masterminds or something?
Yeah, I'll give you very specific, because I know you guys want to hear the details. I mean, a quick answer is you pay to get somebody's attention. I mean, you pay or you make them money. Or people like, oh, I want to help you on it, but actually do it. Don't just fucking say it. And so going back into that class where I watched Shark Tank, and my mentor led me to Think and Go Rich. Long game, I knew eventually I wanted to be in business with a shark. Short game, I knew I needed to get to somebody close to him. Right out of college, 21 years old, 22, I invested. My parents thought it was a scam, by the way. I invested in that inventor, Cactus Jack Behringer, who led me the book. I invested, it was about 10 grand back then. And I didn't have it. I found it. I was pitching in front of groups. Hey, I need money for my invention. And I got $10,000 cash. I'll never forget. I fucking paid him in cash at 22. And I invested in him and I paid him 25 grand over a few years. But that was a relationship that eventually led to an email introduction to Kevin Harrington. So I was in the door. And
So
then I
much
did a
more than
video.
that, eh? Oof.
Yeah. So I did a personal video to him. I got in touch with his team. So his team comes to me and they sell me. And then, hey, I want Kevin to speak at my event. After 5 months of negotiating, this is early in my career, 5 months of negotiating and willing to sell my pickup truck to make it happen, I made a deal. I signed the agreement, a payment plan over X amount of months to hire him to speak at my event. Made the first payment, got another guy convinced to be a sponsor to pay the other payment. And they got another guy convinced and I made it happen. So I paid him to speak at my event. But here's the best part, Kat, that I did is I had opportunity before the event. And actually, now that I say this out loud, I've done this multiple times. I didn't even realize it. I had opportunity to spend 5 minutes with him in a car ride a month before our event that I hired him to speak at. I got in a plane at a moment's notice to get in the car ride. And I'm like, this guy, I'm going to pull in the bait and he's going to fucking pitch me. And so what I did is I shared, hey, yeah, I just helped this guy named John Lee Dumas. We did $500,000 in a month. We did a book deal. It was pretty amazing. And then he's like, oh, so what'd you all do? We did that. He's like, well, what if we did a book deal together? By the end of that weekend, we had shook hands. He hired me. I actually got some of my investment back. We did a deal together. We launched this book called Put a Shark in Your Tank. People paid to be in the book. We did a marketing campaign that led to an invention that led to a $100 million deal because I invested in that relationship. And so that was one win. But not only did I stop at, like, you don't stop after that win. You have to keep showing up, bring deals, bring opportunities. And then it gets to the point like, hey, I'm going to come help you. I'm going to help you. Like, give you an example. Next week, we're going to this event, Elena Cardone. It's Kevin and I meeting with Elena Cardone and the guy that has a big flip or flop show and the founder of EXP. We're in a private meeting and then he speaks in front of 3,000 people. Then we go get a private car that picks us up to a tarmac where we get on a jet. We're getting flown to Mexico to speak at an event. And then we're flying back to go to their event. And that experience happened because I invested in a mentor that had a relationship. And then I invested in him. And then I invested, and it eventually came fold. The problem that most people make is they're either scared or fear or whatever they tell themselves. I don't got the time. I don't got the money. Scared. Fuck that. That's bullshit. Because if you really want something, either you'll get it or you'll make an excuse of why you didn't get it. And because of that relationship, I now have the power I do, not only for my personal brand, but I have giants around me that have built billion-dollar companies that are mentoring me. And I get to hang out with on a day. I was just over at his house before I came here. I thought it was gonna be late, by the way, because we were in the middle of a webinar. But that's what happens when you invest. Long story short, pay people, make them money, help them achieve their goals, buy their books, pay to have them speak your event. And then after you add massive value and create experience for them, they will come to you and say, how can I help you? And don't do, I'll do this for you, you do this for me. Fuck that. I will do this for you and I'm not going to expect shit. But if you help me, which they will, let's work together.
That soundbite was so good. So on point. And I have also found in my own experience, in my own like entrepreneurial career, proximity to people that are walking the walk, that have been there, done that, has single-handedly been the biggest payoff ever. And I will time and time again invest in mentors and for people's time, that even if I don't have the money, I will stretch myself. I will do it because I know
you grow from it.
Off 10, even just the act of letting that kind of money go proves to you that other people will do that to you. It's like such a foundation for belief, you know?
Well, it's also too, like, if you're getting people to put 20, 30, 50, 100 grand into your stuff and you're not doing it, it's almost like you're a hypocrite,
It's a
right? So it's like,
yeah, 100.
I'm investing, you're going to invest, and we're all investing. And it's proximity, because let's say, Kat, give an example. I don't know, maybe Russell Brunson, maybe you invested in his
Yeah,
mastermind.
I did
So you have
actually.
access.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. One of my mastermind members actually was in his mastermind, and he got him on Grant stage, by the way.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
And was it 25 or 35, or is it 50 grand?
It
I
was
can't remember.
50K when I went in. Yeah.
So 50K. But I don't know what people pay to be in this group. I hope they paid a lot because it's worth it. But like the fact that you have that connection, if they can prove to you like there's some value to give to Russell Brunson, it's your duty to find that connection. But the only way that can happen is if they invest in themselves to be here, which you invested to help them, and it's paying it kind of through the line, and that's connections happening. And so once you understand that, life becomes easier.
Yeah, 100%. And even just thinking about my own dynamics with, you know, people in this group and all the followers that I have, I don't respond to messages from people unless they're in this group or they're close to me. It's just not something I would do because it's very rare I would do that. It's just not worth, you know, it's too much demand for my time, right?
Well,
Okay.
it's also one quick thing I want to share. There's psychology behind it. It's proven when we get paid, we're likely to pay more attention. And when I pay you, I'm going to pay more attention. But also, like, it's a mind thing. I've told people, they've said to me, if I don't invest in your mastermind, you're going to still talk to them. I'm like, dude, let's still be friends. Here's the deal. Like, when you're a part of the things I'm doing on a regular basis, we're going to see each other. If we're going to see each other more, things are going to be more likely to happen. It's just it's really a scientific thing. So that's why people should want to invest in your time and efforts, because you're going to be more likely motivated. It's like, even you think about it or not, like psychologically, you're going to want to help them.
Reciprocity,
so right?
Yeah.
Yes.
The psychology of reciprocity. Okay, I want to like go over a subject because you have made so many pivots. You started off like ice, then you made an invention, then now you're in video and like production. So was the like, you know, when you talk about it like that, it sounds so seamless, but from somebody who's just been through a pivot myself in the last 3 years, and it was like a fucking rip in my life. It was so intense. Like, how did you make those shifts? Were those just like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do, and you pivoted in it? Or was there a lot of like fear? And how did you kind of manage those shifts? Because I know a lot of people in this group watching right now are trying to make a jump as well.
Yeah, I'm going to share a story that I don't always share, but because I saw somebody say, your parents stopped talking to you, I'll share why. So in my career, I've made it transitions, and from inventor to hearing feedback from the market, like, oh, you're inspiring and all this. So I do more speaking, but then I led to crowdfunding. I'm like, oh, this is going to work more. And I knew eventually I had to get out of the ice business. And so where my transition hit, and this wasn't that long ago, where I got more into the TV realm, more on the video side,
like 4
and getting
years
out of the
ago,
ice.
right?
Yeah. So 4 years ago, we did. So there's a book called The Road to Success: How to Achieve Success in Business, Life,
And you
Love.
did a tour.
My wife and I wrote this book after we did the show. So we traveled. The whole concept was to go back in time. It was June 9th of 2017, and we're sitting on the beach in Puerto Rico, and it was my wife's birthday. And we said, what are we going to do next? I just done a TV show, done different things. And I said, why don't we travel the country and live in 12 cities in 12 months? And so she agreed to that. And then I said, why don't we film a show on it? Because I wanted to keep doing content. And somehow I convinced her after 3 drinks. And then we actually went home and did it. So like we started planning everything. We did a mini tour like 3 months later, 30 days around the country. And then come January, we started touring the whole country. And so the whole concept was, we're on a mission to find the true meaning of success and an answer to what success is around the country before we got married that year. And so we learned from a 2-time All-Star, Shea Hillenbrand, who made 20 million, top of his game, and lost everything, suicidal, to a real estate business that started in a closet that created 100 million in revenue a year, to billionaires, to people that lived on the street. And so we would go to these cities, we'd find the talent, we'd fly in our film crew, we'd film for 5 days, while in the city, we'd do something, a contribution, raise for a cause, and then we would shoot it and then go to the next city. And so 2 cities in, what happened is I was going through a buyout of the business partner for one company. I had just done an event that completely flopped and I had a shit ton of money in it, but also had some other shit going on while funding a show and really not that much revenue coming in. And so I was in a very tight situation financially. And it's gonna 2 different stories where this happened. And so I was down to my last like credit, and I couldn't even take my girlfriend, fiance at the time, to dinner for Valentine's Day. And I remember I said, "Fuck it, I got $185 left in credit on this credit card. I don't give a fuck. I'm taking her to dinner." Took her to dinner, and if you know what I'm talking about, right before you hit a big win, which while you're in a shitty situation but you're about to hit a big win, there's a sense of peace. Well, what happened is go to dinner. A few days later, I had a deal that I did. I made a relationship and I got stock in a company. It went public. And so my stock was worth $1.3 million. And so from nothing to that, I was in the game again. But fast forward, because I didn't sell my stock because I was a fucking idiot. And so I kept going. I did another show. We got 3 episodes in, and then we got another city we're going to. We learned from a homeless guy. He's like, you can do a lot with a little, and you don't need material things. And we realized like our shit doesn't matter. We went home, sold our house, sold 99% of our things, and I sold an event business. And then I was in the process of going to sell the ice business. Mm-hmm. And so it was a very hard conversation with my father because I was 27 years old, I think at the time. And I had been in it my entire life. And I had bought it from him 4 years earlier. And I told myself I would never sell the ice business. But I knew deep down inside, it was actually holding me back. It was actually only making me like $500,000 a year top line. And it was actually hurting all the other stuff I was doing. And I knew deep down inside, I had to let go of the ice business. And so kept filming the show, kept spending more money, going, get to the wedding, get done with that. Well, I hit a couple brick walls. I had an offer where I was going to sell the business for a good multiple where I'm like, I'm good. Well, I got fucked over last minute, and I got in a position where I was in debt and it all was coming due. So I actually had to sell the ice business to force not going in bankruptcy. And I lost everything in the process. And with that, there was a big business credit card debt that my dad's name was on. So he called me and said, I don't want to fucking talk to you again. And so I did lose everything. It was one of the hardest things I share with you guys because it's very important to hear this. I got out of the ice business and it was a release because I knew I don't have to focus on the ice business anymore. I just need to focus on this. And at that time when I sold the business, I had 6 weeks of runway and I was spending probably $40,000 a month in debt. And so I didn't want to file bankruptcy. It was against my whole belief. I'm like, I'm just going to fucking pay it back. And so this journey was so tough because like I'm making money, I'm speaking on stage, I'm sharing about success. But in the blinds, I'm like, fuck, I don't know what I'm going to do. I need this fucking $15,000 speaking check to go through to pay the bank. And so it was very difficult for me because I felt like a fraud, but I had achieved success. But like in that moment, I didn't have much in my bank account, but I told myself, you know what? I'm a great communicator. I'm a great storyteller. If I can communicate my message effectively to the world and inspire them, it's going to help them. And I got to get over the fact that right now I'm not in a good place personally. And so I did that. And what saved me really was COVID, because going to COVID, I started to get my runway and making some money. COVID hit, no more speaking. I was 2 weeks away, by the way, from being on stage with fucking Kevin Hart. And we were both going to be speaking on stage together. I'm like, oh, and then everything shut down. I made a pivot, moved to Florida, did a lot more stuff with the Harringtons, and we grew a massive portfolio in a short period of time. I started making real money, and I built everything back up. And so I share that story to tell you guys, like, whatever you're going through right now, it doesn't mean it's going to be there forever. If you keep pushing through, in that transition of my journey, sometimes you have to let go of shit that's holding you back. The ice business was holding me back because it was comfortable. It wasn't allowing me to focus 100% of my energy on where I needed to go. And that's what led me to talking to you now.
Imagine if you were still selling ice, right? It would be a totally different version of you. Yeah. And
It would be.
yeah. And that's what I experienced as well, was that, well, I wasn't willing to let go. I was too scared. And that's when the mental breakdown came in, because it was like I wasn't doing it. So my core, my subconscious stepped in to do the job for me. It knew I wasn't aligned. It wasn't for me. I knew these things.
Yeah.
My rational mind was just too. What I love about your story is that it is yet another reminder that it doesn't mean anything to hit rock bottom financially. It's not, because I think so many of us, we get to those cinches and then we make a whole narrative around like, it'll never work for me. I'm a failure. I failed. This will never happen to me. But yet time and time again, stories from very successful individuals like yourself that have been there. It took the cinch to get to the big blowout, you know?
In the whole thing, going back to Think and Go Rich, and I want to answer the question Caleb asked. Think and Go Rich, there's a saying that your brightest days are just beyond your darkest nights, and that your greatest wins are just beyond your biggest so-called failures. And I always thought about that in the journey. I'm like, I'm just one deal away. Wake up, even if you're going through hell, one deal away. And so that's what kept pushing me forward. And if you have that mindset, you're going to be good. And to Caleb's point, Think and Go Rich is a fairly masculine message. Do you have any comments regarding being able to receive? In terms of that, you're meaning like it's basically sharing all men's stories, correct?
No, I think he's meaning more like it's action do, and then more around like receiving, like manifesting. Is that what you mean, Caleb?
Is that what you mean by that?
Yeah.
So Think and Go Rich, I mean, there's a secret, which is one thing. And I think that was more on like, you're saying things, you're thinking about it, but it wasn't so much action. For Think and Go Rich, for me, in my chapter in the book, and I'm part of it for the film, is it's persistence. And for me, what I've learned is if you're persistent and stick with it and do the daily action, you will get there. I mean, it is a numbers game in life. Like I said before, I'm then 10 or 15 calls total today. I'm doing calls when I have a 5-minute gap. I did a morning show today. I did an hour webinar and then another call while I was driving here. And if you can have enough conversations, right ones, with the right people, you're going to get there quicker. And so there is no balance in life. Whatever you spend time on, you're spending away from another area. So you may have times in your life where you focus going towards this. And then you might have, okay, I'm going to take a week off and disconnect. But there really, in my personal opinion, there is no balance, because anybody that's achieved something in life, they had to make a sacrifice, and maybe they didn't get to see their kids as much, and that's why I don't have any kids, or maybe they lost a significant other. There's always a sacrifice, and the question you all need to ask yourself is, one, what does success mean to you? And two, what's the price you're willing to pay to get it?
We're so different in here in that we're like, no sacrifice. But what I would say to you is that you're in flow. Like to do 15 calls a day would burn a person out. And so that shows that you're deeply fucking aligned. Like you're deeply aligned to your core, because that would kill me to do 15 calls normally. But when I'm in flow, when I'm like, this is what I want and I'm hungry, it's like, you can't pry me away. You can't take me away. It's like even my kids lose out sometimes on my time because I'm like, I just want to do this, you know?
Well, to your point, Kat, is you look at it. That's why I always say, what is your success? And so not everybody, for me, I'm 32 and I'm empire mode, growing empire. And so I want to do that. And not everybody is in a phase. Like you ask me 5 years from now, I might give you a totally different answer. And I don't know. It's just a matter of what is success to you and what does that look like, and then going after it. So for me, it's massive action right now.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Rise and Record, which is coming up in like 15 days or something like that.
14 days, 21 hours, 3 minutes and 19 seconds.
So this is going back to building a personal brand and using videos, right? Tell us a little bit more about it.
The Rise and Record is just like it sounds, rise and record. So rise up and record video content. Rise up and share your story. That whole journey I shared, going through that shit show, doing the show, almost going bankrupt, lose everything. What I found out in film and also my personal experiences when I shared those stories with the world, just like I shared with you, some of you are probably inspired or made you realize like, fuck, I've gone through the same shit. We connect on a deeper level and also helps more people. And so Rise and Record's all about rising up and sharing your story with the world, specifically through video or film, and using video content in your business or even with your raising money. So Rise and Record, my wife and I do together. She's, if you can see, this is her on the book. That's my beautiful wife. And so we put on the event together. It's in Nashville, Tennessee, October 19th to the 21st. I think everybody's all over the world, but we got people coming in from Australia, UK, Ireland, Canada. I would love, if anybody's here would love to attend, riseandrecord.com. Kat, I'd love to take you away, but you're probably busy. But
well, I was just thinking if there's, because I know there was whispers in the group of a get together. I will shout a house in Nashville for those of you that want to attend Rise and Record. I'll pay for that. I'll pay for the house, and you guys.
I'll tell you this. I'll throw it on top. If you guys ever heard, I brought in the musician. You ever heard Florida Georgia Line?
No.
So Florida Georgia Line has a song, Cruise, with Nelly, one of the most sold albums of all time. I brought in Brian Kelly of Florida Georgia Line. I'm interviewing him on stage and he's performing at the event. So like I'm bringing some heavy hitters, and I invested a lot of time and money in this because I love to invest back into people that are in my life. And so if you come, especially you, Kat, I will make sure you make money from the experience and we have some fucking fun.
Fuck yes. I have used video quite a bit, obviously, in my career. I recorded Pay the Fucking Invoice, and I'm thinking of going through another round next year, but different theme. And it's so beautiful how now we have access like we've never had before to record our stories in such a way. And like, I really think humans are storytellers. I think that that's the purpose of why we're here, is to ultimately elevate consciousness through our stories, you know? So yeah,
we all have a story, and when you share your story, it actually, I want to share, I'm just putting the link here, but I do want to share a story, and this is very deep to me and why I do what I do. So my wife inspires me, and she's the reason why I do like documentary film. Before I met her, she was in a very abusive, well, first off, when she was 13, she got addicted to meth. And so she, like, a guy said, hey, you want to try this? She looked up to him and she took a hit, and it completely like took her for a year. And somehow she had they call, I think, a trip to like a scare to death. So much so the trip that like, you never want to do drugs again. And so she left drugs, but she rolled into an 8-year relationship, was with a very bad guy. And so he abused her. And so for 8 years, she was in this very crazy relationship. And one day she packed her vehicle, anything she could, and she drove away and never saw him again. And so she started from scratch, had nothing. When I met her, it was 6 months after that. And we were both in different parts of her life. I was working nonstop and I felt like I was alone. She had her own experience, and we came together and we formed obviously this great relationship and went on to do a show and Emmys and all that together. But we created a film called Red Flags. And it was a documentary on her story. The red flags are, what are the red flags of your life? Red flags that happen in a relationship or in a business deal, whatever. And so we shot that, and that ended up winning Emmys, but it's not even about that. It's about that story can impact so many women, so many people dealing with drug addiction, to know that if she overcame it, they can too. And so that is why I really do what I do. It's taking storytelling to a whole nother level and helping the masses through video content.
Beautiful. Okay, so we'll open up for questions if you have a minute. If anyone wants to ask any questions, pop them in the comments. And yeah, so there's the offer. For those of you guys in here that want to head to Rise and Record in Nashville, October 19th to 21st, I will put up a house. So I'll put up the lodging for the group, so you guys can
That's pretty epic, by the way.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
That,
well, there has been whispers in the group of members wanting to get together, so why not? This works out.
I don't know how many people in this room, but if at least 5 of you come, get tickets. I'm going to put something special together, experience for you that not many people can do. I don't know what it is yet, but I'll put it together.
Oh my God, that's fucking do it, guys. Brandon is amazing. And like we're talking about proximity. Proximity is always worth the investment. Proximity with each other, but also to Brandon and this event. So if you're feeling compelled to share your story, and or you're working with clients on videos, helping them share their story, obviously this is like a brilliant tax deductible expense.
Exactly.
Professional development. Yes, sir. Amazing, the tax deductible things that I put on Byron Bay retreat. Psychic.
Dude, we all need a write-off.
Sound healing. My accountant is questioning things. Amazing. So if nobody has any questions from Brandon,
I want to share. I mean, I got time. If you got a question, I want to answer it for you. And please speak up and ask me directly. As you know, I share anything.
Yeah. So what are the awards behind you? They look amazing.
So they're Emmys. So
they're Emmys? That's a big deal.
So that's my wife's Red Flags. That's mine. And then that's my wife's and mine. We won one for Success Your City. We won one for Red Flags. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears in the process.
Oh,
and almost lost everything.
That's incredible. Oh my God. Congratulations. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wow. And it all started with ice, to think.
It started from ice and selling moonshine.
Are you talking to your dad now, your parents?
Yeah, we have a great relationship. He realized he needed, he's stubborn, but we figure it all out. We have a great relationship now. I love my dad dearly.
Oh, good.
And it was very tough though. When the person you look up to and you don't talk to for a while, it hurts.
Yeah. Truly a story of overcoming deep chaos, right? Yeah. And
Lane says, how did you get into film? Self-produced, or you may have mentioned, if so, do I apologize? So I think I might have briefly mentioned it. I had a guy that came to me, and I was a crowdfunding expert. He saw what I did in raising money, and he said to me, if you help me raise money for this endeavor, I have a pilot run of a TV show, I will make you my co-host. And I said, deal. Raised the money. 60 days later, we started filming our first episode, and then we did the first show. Season 1 was great. We had Jack Canfield on it, Lewis Howes, Jake Paul before he became a fighter, and so many amazing people. And we got an Emmy nomination. We never won. But as an entrepreneur, what I did is I found some really good cinematographers and some great directors and storytellers. I used my entrepreneur mind, my interview skills, and my fundraising skills to help create a show. And that's how I got into the industry. It's not easy. It's cutthroat. And I don't want to go live the Hollywood life. I want to live the entrepreneur film documentary style life that I do.
Yeah, it's really taking off on Netflix as well. Like with Goop, like I've just found so many documentary, like there's a huge uptake now of that kind of style of content hitting mass platforms, and that's
content's king. And docu series or sales entries, like the more you can create more documentary style content, even that you post on social media, the more people are going to want to work with you.
Hey, Brandon, I've got a question for a second here. Sorry, just to jump in here. When it comes to self-doubt, and I guess probably the evolution of that trust in self, in the early days, and do you still today go through self-doubt, and how do you deal with it? And then how does that transform from how you used to be, say, 4 years ago? Because obviously you built up that memory, that muscle memory, or that body memory around it. I'd just love to hear the differences between how it used to be and how it is today, and then what kind of challenges you have today that are different to what you had back then.
Such a good question, and hello to your family. I'm going to create it.
Isn't that amazing? The kids watching, they're going to be so brilliant.
I love it. Hey, wait, what's your name?
Okay, Elijah is his name.
Nice to meet you, buddy. So to answer your question, great question. Thank you, Mark. To answer that is, earlier on in my career, I've always had a strong mindset, and I would tell myself I could do something. And sometimes it came off as ignorance and overconfidence, but I would much rather have overconfidence and no confidence at all. But I wasn't like, I hadn't achieved certain milestones that I had yet. So there was still self-doubt. Now, after I had a couple big wins in my career, whether it created a TV show, came to life from nothing, or a book or an Emmy or money milestone, I had some things to fall back on and like, oh shit, like I've actually done stuff. But now some of the things that I deal with, to be completely transparent, is I am with a lot of very powerful, influential people. And sometimes I feel really like I'm not doing enough. Like, why am I? But I'm with people that are twice my age. And I got to remember that they're twice my age and they have a lot more battle scars on me. And so sometimes when I'm around that, I have this, and it's good because I feel, oh, I need to do things at a higher level because I need to be more at that level. And that's why, like, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so that's a good thing. But and the side of me, I guess, I deal with sometimes is, am I doing enough? Is there something I could do to be able to achieve more or be more efficient or be more efficient with my time? And so that's something I struggle with sometimes. And it is, I think there's a study that shows that like all high driven, successful people deal with that. They feel like they've never done it. They're never going to be enough in terms of what they achieved, or they could always do more. And that is something I just acknowledge it, and it is what it is. Hopefully that helps you.
I think if you don't feel like an imposter, then you're not really putting yourself in the groups that are stretching you, because I think that that's a very healthy sign that if you feel like the smartest person in a room, you're not going to grow. The people around you will grow, but you're not going to grow. Yeah.
And that's why it's important to have your own unique specialized knowledge, because if I have a unique talent that not other people don't have, that's value I bring to the table. And it doesn't matter if they have more money than me or more fame. I have more of a talent that they don't have, which they need, which brings value to the group overall. And so that's how I look at it too. Is can you really master one area of your life that is so good that people want you for it?
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. And we all have a unique talent that cannot be copied by anyone else. We're all so different and unique. So it's amazing.
We are.
Yeah.
We're all so different.
We all have a unique story to tell.
You all do. Everybody in this room. I mean, if I had a whole day, I'm sure I could like ask everybody a couple questions and I would pull out some things that you've never even thought of before because you never really publicly shared it.
Yeah. Yeah. When I encounter imposter syndrome, I remind myself that it's like an invitation to feel inspired, not small, inspired, like, wow, this is what's possible. These people are showing me what can be done in life. That is cool. Like you inspire me for sure.
Thank you. I mean, you inspire me. I watch your videos. I watch your content. I see the journey. I've been through the mental breakdowns too. I know what it's like.
Yeah. Such a pleasure to be on this journey with you and to see each other like rise. It's just
so cool. It is cool, isn't it?
I wonder what we'll be. We'll have to do a call again in 7 years.
Can you imagine?
Years. Yeah.
Why don't we go? We'll pick you up on my jet and we'll go.
Fuck yes. Hell yes. I love it. Yeah.
What do you like to drink? I'll bring you that too.
Yeah. I love it. You're gonna have your fucking empire. You have an empire. It'll be next level by that stage. That's for sure. I'm not worried about you at all. It's incredible what you're doing. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us. I will post in the group for Rise and Record, and I
appreciate that.
Yes, for anyone that wants to go to that, highly recommend getting in proximity to Brandon. He's very high vibe. Let me mute somebody. So thank you everybody for showing up. Thank you, Brandon. Really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Love for you. See ya. Good luck with the rest.
I appreciate you all. Until next time, okay?
Yeah. See ya.
See you in Nashville.
See ya in Nashville.